Hello everyone. This story is about, what if God-like Naruto was able to feel other people's emotions and fall in love with Mei and Anko? Please like, share and subscribe for more. Also check the other fics I've uploaded. Now let's start. Training Ground 44, Anko began with a sadistic smirk, is more commonly referred to as the Forest of Death. Naruto really wanted to smirk at her words. She really wanted to scare the genin the best she could. He was, however, preoccupied at the moment. He didn't know if the Hyuga was arrogant or naive, because Naruto was able to feel him the moment he entered the village. He also knew that he wasn't the real Hyuga, but that didn't make the Kamikage any less furious. Did he really think he could fool him with that disguise? Did he really think he could get to his student without going through him? Did he think he was that adept in stealth that he could slip past the greatest censor ever born? Yes, Orochimaru was a fool, because there was nothing the blonde couldn't see. The fact that the skin he was using was constantly looking at Anko really pissed him off. If he wasn't under orders from the Hokage to act like he knew nothing, he would have killed him, even if he wasn't the real one. Naruto actually had to clench his fist so hard that he broke skin to keep himself from ripping the intruder to pieces. The Uzumaki knew exactly what he was here for. He may have been staring at Anko, but he was thinking about nothing but Sasuke, or more specifically, Sasuke's eyes. Naruto would have fun taking the traitor's life. Here, Naruto began, each team will receive a scroll. To complete this exam, you'll need both a heaven and an earth scroll. You have 5 days to complete this task, so don't rush. He finished. Anko smirked. Now, we need you all to sign these release forms. You know, just in case you lose your lives. We can't have Konoha responsible for your incompetence, now can we? With that said, most of the genin looked pale, sickly so. Sasuke, on the other hand, had the look Naruto knew very well. He was eager to wake up. Good. He will need it when Orochimaru approaches him. He couldn't wait to see what happens. He couldn't wait to see how Sasuke dealt with an opponent he could not defeat. This would be the final test he needed to go through, and depending on the outcome, Sasuke would either be a lot stronger because of it, or Naruto was wrong about the Uchiha. And he would stop training him immediately. One could not teach one to see if they insisted on staying blind. Hopefully, Naruto was right, and Sasuke was ready to open his eyes and see. Alright, line up at your designated gates and be ready for the starting whistle. Anko announced after collecting all of the signed forms. Oh, and one last little piece of advice, her smirk made Naruto proud, don't fuck with the inhabitants of the forest. They like fresh meat. As she walked towards Naruto, he couldn't help but shake his head and smirk. Even with Orochimaru on his mind, Anko was able to make him smile. That was one of the reasons he loved her. The starting whistle blew and the genin rushed into the forest of death. The second exam had begun. Nice speech, Anko. You really know how to scare genin. Anko gave him one of her giant smiles that she gave when she was proud about something. Yeah, you know, you either have the gift or you don't. She stuck her nose up in mock superiority. It's an art form, really. She chuckled at her own joke. Before Naruto could reply, Nico shunshined into the entrance of Training Ground 44, right behind him with the rest of Team Roe. The entire team was in the usual ANBU salute. We've searched the place you mentioned. Nico started. You were right, a female Kusa Kunoichi was murdered. Naruto sighed. Your orders? She asked. Clean it up and report to the Hokage. I'll take it from here. Thank you, Nico, he nodded towards the rest of Rohan, all of you. And then he was gone, like he wasn't even there to begin with. Anko's eyes widened. All she did was blink and then. Nothing. Naruto was gone. Team Roe, besides Nico, shunshined away, ready to complete the task they were ordered to do. Nico noticed the snake user's confusion and decided to elaborate. Taicho is extremely advanced in the Shunshin. With that said, Nico took her leave, catching up with her cell. Anko didn't know what was going on, but she guessed it was important if Naruto was involved. She thought she would be able to spend the day with him, but it looked like that wasn't going to happen anymore. She sighed and accepted what her day was going to be like. Sake and Dango it was, then. Sasuke couldn't stop thinking about it as he and Team 7 roamed the forest of death. He knew he should be paying attention for enemy Nin, but he just couldn't get it off his mind. It was a simple question. Well, simple in the way it was worded. There were only 6 words in the question, and they weren't even all that complex. The question in nature though, that's when it got complicated. The meaning behind the words had him internally struggling. How could he choose between the two? He was born as one of them. It was who he was. He had taken pride in it ever since he was able to properly understand who and what he was. He wanted to become the other. It was what he saw himself as. When he properly understood what it was, he knew what he wanted, like the entire world became clear. It confused him because he didn't know why he couldn't be both. Even if he chose one, how could he not be the other? He knew there was a meaning behind Naruto's words, he just couldn't find it. Everything Naruto said had a hidden meaning behind it. Did it mean he wouldn't be taught if he chose wrong? He could lie. No. He couldn't lie to Naruto, even if he wanted. There wasn't a person dead or alive that could lie to that guy. So what was it? What would he choose? Would he keep his pride and arrogance and stay an Uchiha? Or would he let himself be reborn as a monster? Could he let his clan name go? Could he look past his family and be the shinobi he wanted to be? Did he even really want to be a monster? When that question came to his mind, he somehow knew his answer. Would he give his precious eyes to protect what Itachi loved? Yes. Would he give his life for heaven? Yes. Would he let his prideful family name go? Yes. He was going to be a monster, no matter what the cost. Fear. All she could feel was fear. The woman was just looking at them, but that, apparently, was enough. Images of her and her team dying were the only thing on her mind. It was like they were already dead. Her skin was just as cold as her sweat. Her heartbeat was extremely fast and so very loud. It was like the entire world could hear it. She couldn't tell if she was breathing hard or soft. This was it. They were all going to die. The woman's vicious, creepy smile was etched into her mind. Don't you see, Sasuke-kun? I can give you this power. I can give you what you want. The woman began to approach them. We are a lot alike, you and I leave Konoha, and I can make you strong enough to have your precious revenge. Sasuke was just staring at the ground, like he was just as terrified as Sakura. His body was shaking, and he didn't say a word. Join me, Sasuke-kun. She said again. Or join your fellow Konoha shinobi in death. She smirked. She was looking at Sakura while she said this. Sakura managed to whimper the closer she got to them. Just before she could reach them, Sasuke raised his head, looking her straight in the eyes. He even managed to stop her in mid-step. Why was the boy smiling? Thank you, Orochimaru. Said Hibi narrowed his eyes. How did the Uchiha know who he was? I never really understood what he meant by being awake. Sasuke took in a deep breath. You have shown me what it truly means. His onyx eyes morphed to a blood-red crimson, 3 tomo in one eye, 2 in the other, greeted the world. You think I would abandon Konoha to gain the power you promise? The genin actually laughed. I've been promised true strength, true power, from a god. Sasuke knew he stood no chance against an opponent like the Snake team, but that meant little to him. Why do you look so surprised? Did you truly believe you could escape my master? Did you think he wouldn't warn me about you? He took out a kunai. You're an arrogant fool, Orochimaru. This was it. He was awake. His eyes were finally open. His soul was finally free. My master's eyes can see everything. It's too late. He can already see you. He was finally a monster. The Hibi Sannin started to chuckle. You stand against me with a confident smirk on your face and you call me the arrogant fool? The pale man's tongue slithered out of his mouth, licking the air creepily. Let's see just how much you value your village. Before he even finished his sentence, the Sannin took off. Even with his Sharingan, Sasuke wasn't fast enough to react to Orochimaru's speed. Sakura was being held by the snake Sannin, and a kunai was placed at her throat. Sasuke gripped his kunai and snarled. Let her go. The snake chuckled. Now why would I do that? He put pressure on Sakura's throat with his blade, a thin line of blood following the threatening action. What will you do, Sasuke-kun? He asked with creepy joy. What would someone like you want with me? Sasuke began to think out loud. Why me specifically? His eyes met the Sannin's. It's the Sharingan, isn't it? He asked. You want the power of the Uchiha, and I'm the only one who you could take it from. He smirked. You're a bit late, Orochimaru, the Uchiha began in a serious voice. My eyes already belong to heaven. He took his kunai and placed it in front of his left eye. And I know for a fact that my master would rather have me carve these eyes of mine out before they were tainted by you. Sasuke's voice snapped Sakura out of her terrified stupor. Sasuke-kun, she whispered. You wouldn't, Orochimaru started, you'd never sacrifice your revenge for a worthless kunoichi genin. He tried not to show it, but Sasuke had him a little worried. Kabuto had told him that the boy was a selfish, stuck-up, revenge-crazed, typical Uchiha. This, however, was very different from the genin he saw in front of him. You don't know a damn thing about me. Sasuke said softly. Or my brother. Orochimaru raised an eyebrow. We protect Konoha, and all of her citizens. He raised the kunai to better thrust, ready to serve his master in the only way he knew he could. That's when he felt it. It was like a hand was holding his back, stopping him. It was a strange feeling, and he couldn't really explain it, but it was there. He had felt this before. He knew exactly what this was, who this was. It was hope incarnate. It was a god among men. It was an angel of heaven. It was a monster. It was his master. It was Naruto. The forest surrounding them was alit in a golden light. Even with his Sharingan, Sasuke had to shield his eyes from the majestic shine. It was like the sun, extremely bright and warm. It washed over all of them, and just as fast as it came, it left. When Sasuke slowly blinked his eyes open, he couldn't stop the smirk that crept onto his face. Orochimaru was gone. From above Sakura's head, what was left of the snake Sanin's body fell to its knees, releasing the cherry blossom. When it hit the ground, it crumbled away like dust. Tears ran down Sakura's cheeks, and she did the only thing she could, and Sasuke let her. When Sai finally met up with the rest of his team after he was separated from them, he was met with Sakura weeping within Sasuke's embrace. Sasuke's Sharingan was still active, so he was able to see how fake their last teammate's smile was. Naruto was right. They needed to have a talk with Sai. Naruto had been watching Team 7 for a little while when the traitorous snake showed its ugly face. He had watched with curiosity. What would Sasuke do in the presence of someone who could easily kill him if he wanted? He was furious when Orochimaru just looked at Sai and the boy took off, leaving his comrades behind. That was the worst thing he could have done. Naruto had been trained since he was 3 to value his subordinates above even the mission. Sai was now worse than trash, and Naruto needed to let the boy know of his place. That's when the sinister, disgusting killing intent leaked from the enemy of heaven. He could feel how scared Sakura was. The girl had been training every day as hard as she possibly could, but there was nothing she could do to ready herself for something like this at her current level. It wasn't her fault, and Naruto was pissed that she had to go through it. This wasn't her fight. This wasn't her problem. Orochimaru should have been killed a long time ago. Sasuke, however, reassured Naruto that he had made the right choice in apprentice. To actually wake in the face of someone like the snake Sannin. It was priceless. He actually smirked at him. It was perfect. When he felt the Uchiha's resolve, he even smiled. He was ready to rid himself of his eyes for Sakura, for Konoha. If that wasn't the actions of an angel of heaven, then Naruto didn't know what was. Before he could actually carve his eyes out, Naruto decided it was time to end this. He reached out to Sasuke with his chakra, his will. The young Uchiha would need those eyes if he wanted to complete his goal. He then promptly rid the forest of death of Orochimaru. After his presence lifted from the forest, Sasuke even managed to surprise the bringer of hope. He did not expect the Uchiha to allow the much-needed embrace for Sakura. He could feel his heart, his mind, his soul. Sasuke was different, better. He no longer saw Sakura or any other shinobi as hindrances, but as important allies. As family. Sasuke had passed his last test. He was now seen as a monster in the eyes of a monster. Naruto's eyes narrowed when Sai finally decided to grace his team with his presence. He could tell that Sasuke had also seen his fake smile. He was right. They needed to have a talk with Sai. Sakura couldn't stop thinking about it. Team 7 had found a huge tree with a hollowed-out trunk and decided to make camp for the night. while she was trying to sleep, and then after she woke, all she could think about was Sasuke's actions. The Uchiha had been her crush since she was a little girl in the academy, and he never had a nice thing to say about her the entire time. They never spoke as friends, or even comrades. They never really spoke unless they absolutely had to, or when she would get shot down when she asked him for dates. He never looked at her the way she wanted no matter how hard she tried. So that's why, when he was willing to carve his own eyes out for her, she just couldn't believe it. He had been speaking to the man-lady, but he had looked straight at her when he was about to thrust his kunai into his own skull. That one look was the reason for her restlessness in the matter. Why did he look at her at the last moment? Yes, the fact that he would do that at all was extremely shocking, especially for someone like him, but that wasn't what bothered her the most. It was his look. He had looked at her the way she had craved for her entire life. It was only for a split second, but it had happened. She hadn't seen things. She hadn't. She needed to know why. Wait. Sasuke whispered suddenly. Someone's coming. He brought a kunai out from his weapons pouch. It didn't take long before 3 figures appeared. 3 figures Team 7 knew, kind of. We finally found you. An odd-looking boy with spiky black hair and an Oto Hitaiate yelled. Dosu. Kin. I told you I'd find them. The only other male of the group, an even stranger-looking man wrapped up in bandages, huffed. Sure. It only took you 2 days. Dosu deadpanned. Whatever. Let's just hurry up and kill them. Kin, the only female, groaned in an annoyed tone. She then developed a smirk. Too bad, though. Her eyes went up and down Sasuke. He's such a looker. Sasuke smirked, but it wasn't because he was flattered. He was already able to wake up so soon after the last time. He loved it. He let loose his kunai, but Zaku, the first to speak, used one of his own to block the rather sloppy throw. Damn. This kid sucks. A smirk found its way onto the monster's face as his kunai hit its target. He can't even throw a kunai right at this range. It'll be easy to kill him, then. Leaves that fell from the trees his kunai hit above the sound genin came into his vision. And here I thought he'd be fun to play with. Sasuke suddenly went through a series of hand seals, faster than the other genin could react. Naruto was a slave driver, but his methods worked. He was sometimes a hardcore physical training enthusiast. Sasuke had gained muscle in the few hours he was like that. He was then someone who sat him down and worked to his weaknesses. It was like he was giving him more attention than anything else. Sasuke had finally learned the Shunshin because of that. He drilled nothing but teamwork into his mind for an entire day. He had been told that those who abandon the mission are trash, which was obvious. It was one of the shinobi rules, after all. He then continued with, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. Today, Sasuke finally understood what that meant. He would also, on rare occasions, help him like he was still in the academy. At first Sasuke had thought he was mocking him or something, but he quickly learned that it was actually a beneficial method of learning. And that Naruto never mocked him, or anyone. All of that was hammered into every fiber of his being in the time span of a few weeks. Unfortunately for these Oto scum, that was enough. He was the apprentice of the Kamikage. It was time the world understood that. The young Uchiha took in a deep breath, ready to let loose his family's most used jutsu. Sasuke vanished. It wasn't until Zaku's screams echoed in the forest that anyone knew where he had gone. Behind said genin, Sasuke stood, the flames from his katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu clinging to the spiky-haired shinobi reflecting in his crimson eyes. There was no crazed, creepy look in those eyes of his. All there were the eyes of a monster. The eyes of someone awake. Kin was the first to react. She dove forward, at the pink-haired female of the team. Before Sakura could counter, or do anything really, Kin was behind her, her pink hair within the Soundmean's hand. Haruno cried out in pain when the bitch pulled hard. Don't move, Uchiha. Or I'll kill her. She shouted. Before Sasuke could make a move on Dosu, he stopped at the girl's voice. That's when their eyes met again. He looked at her the way she always wanted a second time, and she didn't know why. With tears threatening to fall from her eyes, she withdrew a kunai from her weapon's holster and cut. As Pink fell, her eyes never left the Sharingan ones of her teammate. She would not bring him down anymore. She wouldn't be the weak, helpless person she knew she was anymore. She was a kunoichi of Konoha, damn it. It was time for her to start acting like one. Sasuke smirked at the look in her eyes, and nodded. She had his respect. She had his attention. Instead of switching places with the leaves with the Kawarimi no Jutsu like he did to get rid of Zaku, he decided to shun Shin to Kin. His foot met her stomach with a sickening thump. She wasn't unconscious, but that had to have hurt her. When he turned to face Dosu, the man was already about to attack. Before he could use the same technique that blew Kabuto away on him, he was hit in the back of the head. When the Otonin's mind cleared, he noticed he hadn't even been aiming at Sasuke, but at his female accomplice. Sasuke once again looked at Sakura. So Kakashi decided to teach her some genjutsu. Yeah, she definitely had his attention now. Sasuke was already on top of him before he could stand, and a kunai was placed firmly at his throat. The two just stared at each other for a moment before Sasuke began. Give me your scroll of earth. He smirked at the man's confusion. He knew he thought he'd be killed for sure, but that wasn't something Sasuke wanted. Could he take the sound shinobi's life? Definitely. But it was the power to decide whether or not the man died that he was looking for. The man's life was for him to choose. And he was not a demon. He was a monster. He was an angel of heaven. It was his way of showing the true strength of Konoha to a newer nation. They had the power to crush anyone they wanted, and chose not to. They wished for nothing but to live in peaceful harmony with the other villages. That was their choice, nothing else. Dosu slowly brought the scroll from his jacket and handed it to the Uchiha. You're not going to kill us? He asked, not understanding the genin's logic. Why? Sasuke stood, his eyes meeting the burned form of Zaku. The younger genin was still alive, but his arms were almost useless now. I'm a Konoha shinobi. We have nothing to prove to people like you. He grabbed the scroll and turned his back. Take your allies and go. If you survive, I'll see you then. As he was walking back, Kin was on her feet and snarled as she threw a kunai at the Uchiha that she thought he wouldn't be capable of dodging. That's when he pivoted on his right leg, sticking his left leg into the air. With his Sharingan, he could see Team 10 rush out from behind some trees, intent on helping them. Sasuke smirked. They didn't really need it. He used his chakra to attach the kunai to his foot and shot it back at her with a perfect kick. The kunai only grazed the woman's cheek, but that was what he was aiming for. He meant it when he said they didn't need to die yet. Wait, Kin. Dosu shouted. We're retreating. He stood and shouldered his fallen comrade. Now. He said sternly when she didn't move. I can't move, she whispered in panic. She brought her eyes downward and saw that her shadow met that of one of the Konohanins. She was in the same position as he was, and she could tell that he was controlling her. Shikamaru gave Sasuke a glance, one the Uchiha returned with a nod. Shikamaru was never close to Sasuke, or anyone in Team 7 for that matter, but he was one of the few people Naruto talked to about less than public information with. He knew Sasuke was like him now, or becoming like him. He knew the Uchiha was the Kamikage student, and that told Shikamaru that Sasuke probably knew what he was doing. The Nara returned the nod before letting his Kageme no Jutsu go. As soon as Kin had control of her own body again, she leapt back, helping Dosu carry off Zaku. Before they left, Dosu spoke. For letting us go, I'll give you some friendly advice. There are some snakes in this forest that we have in our village. With that said, the sound genin took off. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. That was as clear as day. Otogakure no Sato was associated with Orochimaru somehow. Letting his Sharingan fade away, he turned to Team 10 and Sakura. He almost wanted to laugh, Sai just stood there while they were attacked by enemy shinobi. If Naruto was watching, Sai was going to have a whole lot of trouble on his hands. He shared a brief nod with Shikamaru, a sign of respect and thanks. Naruto had gone over all of the genin in the Chunin exams after he heard the truth. He knew that Nara Shikamaru was smarter than any of them, and that he was almost assured Chunin status if he made it to the finals, which, apparently was very likely. You guys okay? Choji asked them. Sasuke almost didn't recognize the Akimichi. He was very similar in appearance. His clothes hadn't changed or anything, but his eyes. They were not the same eyes Sasuke was used to. Naruto had told him that he had a talk with the pleasantly plump genin, but this was almost unbelievable. He now had the eyes of a shinobi, yet, the gentleness his master spoke of was still present. Naruto was right. Choji was unique. Yeah, we should be fine. Choji almost fell over in shock. Did Uchiha Sasuke actually smile? Thanks for trying to help, though. The raven-haired genin offered his hand to the Akimichi. Everyone present looked at Sasuke strangely. This was not how the Sasuke they all knew since the start of the academy acted. Choji shook out of his shock and took his hand. Yeah, no problem, man. He gave an awkward smile. Ino kind of forced us, but... Sasuke smirked. Well, whatever the case, thanks. He walked up to Sakura and they shared another look. You okay? He asked, not even noticing Ino behind her fixing her hair. Sakura just stared at him for a moment before nodding, which got her scolded by Ino. Yeah, she whispered softly. Sasuke just looked at her for a second before finally nodding and walking away. We've got both scrolls, what about you? He asked Shikamaru. The Nara nodded, hi. We were headed for the tower when we ran into you. He stretched. You want to team up? It's probably safer to travel together than alone. He acted like it wasn't a big deal, but Shikamaru asked this question for 2 reasons. The first was to see if Sasuke would accept help. He knew that he was a prideful prick who thought that help was only for the weak. If he accepted, then Naruto was a far better teacher than he said he was, and the Nara had a theory for that too. The last reason was the obvious. Sasuke was obviously stronger than most of the genin in the forest. If they moved together, they'd be much, much safer. Sasuke was silent for a moment before he nodded. Alright. You're right, we're safer together. As he said this, Ino was finished with Sakura's hair. Yay! Ino shouted. I want to walk next to Sasuke-kun. Sasuke sighed, but was really impressed with Sakura's reaction, or lack of. She just stood there, silent. She didn't care about her and Ino's lame competition to win his affection. Without another word, Team 7 and Team 10 headed for the tower that sat in the middle of Training Ground 44. None of the genin noticed the smirking blonde watching them from the shadows. Naruto stood next to the Hokage on the arena balcony of the tower. To either side of them, Jonin stood, looking over all of the genin that made it through the second test. There were a lot more than anyone thought there'd be. That's why everyone was assembled. They needed to slim the participants down a little. Naruto had a smile on his face the entire time, and it was for more than one reason. The first was the less obvious. Sasuke had made him proud with his actions in the forest. He was right about him. He was different, just like him. The second reason was the obvious. Mitarashi Anko had her arms wrapped around him from the back again. Apparently it was her new favorite spot. Naruto had to agree with her choice. He could feel the jealousy of most of the males in the room. It amused him that his Gigi even felt a little bitter towards him because of his luck. It was the end of the second test, and the Hokage had called everyone together. Naruto could see Team 7, Team 8, Team Guy, and Team 10 in all their glory. It made the Kamikage happy that Konoha had so many teams make it this far. He could also see the Sand siblings he had met a few days ago. Good. Sasuke would need the challenge. He wasn't all that surprised when he saw 2 teams from Kirigakure. With the friendly treaty between them, Mei had no reason not to send her genin to Konoha. He was looking forward to seeing her again. Did she even care about him still? He wanted to punch himself in the face for thinking about another woman when Anko's warm body was wrapped around him. There was another team from Konoha present, and Naruto wasn't at all happy about it. A team from Otogakure had also made it. Sasuke had warned him of their ties with the Hibi Sannin, but by then he had already known. Naruto had spread his mind throughout all of Konoha the second he felt Orochimaru's presence. Nothing happened in heaven that he didn't know about when he actually tried to feel her. The god of shinobi began. The fact that all of you have made it to this point proves that the next generation will indeed surpass us. Naruto could feel his leader's happiness. It takes more than anything anyone can teach to make it in that forest of ours. He took a moment to look over the young genin assembled before him. The Chunin exams have more than one purpose. It allows your superiors to see your progress with their own eyes, this is true. But the main and most important reason is to showcase the power your nation wields. He took a deep breath. If you are standing in this room, you are a shinobi of an ally nation to Konoha. However, no matter how friendly our nations are, we must, unfortunately, show each other the strength we possess. War is such a fickle thing, and these exams are a solution. He paused for a moment, letting the information sink in. They are a peaceful way of showing each other our military might without dragging our entire countries into the mess. Now, enough with my ramblings, we dash. Hayate coughed, trying his best to politely interrupt the god of heaven. Ah, Hokage-sama. May I? He asked. He wanted to explain what was happening since he was proctoring it. Hiruzen nodded, allowing the sickly Tokubetsu Jonin to take the spotlight. Hayate coughed again, before he started. My name is Gecko Hayate, and I will be the proctor for the remaining time. There are far too many prevailing genin, so we have decided to hold preliminaries. He actually smiled. Right now. The genin of the room went up in an uproar. But we just spent 5 days in a place called the Forest of Death. One of the boys from Mizu shouted. Let us have a break. Tenten shouted. Most of the other genin were whispering their dislike for the idea among themselves. This continued for 5 seconds before Naruto cleared his throat. Usually, this wouldn't have made much of an impression in the noisy arena. This, however, was from the bringer of hope, and Naruto never did unimpressive. The chakra he sent to his throat magnified the sound 20 times, making it sound like an angry roar more than a simple cough. The room went silent, and Hayate nodded his thanks to his little brother. These preliminaries will be one-on-one matches. The winner is decided when an opponent can no longer continue or forfeits. I also have the ability to end a match at any time. Failure to obey my commands will result in disqualification. Hayate pointed to the large screen on the wall that sat in the center of both balconies and coughed. Your names will be randomly selected and shown on that screen. When you see your name, make your way down here and ready yourself to fight on my mark. He paused for a moment. Before we start, is there anyone who wishes to forfeit now? The room was silent for a moment before Yakushi Kabuto raised his hand. Yes. I'd like to forfeit, Proctor. I'm too exhausted. Hayate nodded. 2 ANBU appeared at either side of the spy. These ANBU will take you out of the forest. Naruto kept his eyes on the genin below, but he was internally fighting himself. He really wanted to kill Kabuto and be done with it. Anko must have noticed his anger through his tensing body because he felt her deliberately rub her chest against his back. And just like that, Naruto wasn't mad anymore. Anyone else? Hayate asked. When no one raised their hand, he continued. Alright then. Please, make your way to the balcony above, and we'll start the first match of the preliminary exam. As the genin began to file to their designated area, Naruto warned the Sandaime in their chakra burst code. Yakushi Kabuto is a spy for Orochimaru. Oh? Otogakure is affiliated with Orochimaru as well. I see. Tsunegakure is planning something with them, too. Sounds about right. You don't seem too worried about any of this. That's because I'm not. Why? We have something that they don't. And what's that? Naruto smirked, already feeling his GG's amused and totally serious mind. You. Will Temari and Tenten please enter the arena? Hayate called out. While Naruto and the Hokage had their secret conversation, the first match had already been decided. Naruto sighed. He knew that Tenten was a skilled kunoichi, but he also knew that Temari was already at Chunin level. He had never seen the battle fan-wielding kunoichi in action before, but he could tell that her wind affinity was strong. He already knew who was going to win this fight before it even began. Like he predicted, Tenten had used her signature techniques off the bat. She only had amateur fuinjutsu, so going up against someone who could already use elemental ninjutsu was not very successful. Anything she threw at the blonde Sunanin was pushed away with a swing of her fan. Tenten had used a technique he had never seen before as well, but even then she wasn't able to match the winds of Temari's fan. The match ended with Temari tossing Tenten around like a ragdoll. Winner, Temari. Hayate stated. Medical Nin rushed out and collected the downed kunoichi. She hadn't been injured very badly. A good night's sleep and she would be fine. You know. Hiruzen began while they waited for the next names to be called. I don't see what all the fuss is about you. Naruto smirked. I mean. You're only 12. Naruto wanted burst into laughter. The Hokage, the god of shinobi, was pouting. It's the blonde hair and blue eyes, Gigi. The ladies can't resist it. He listened to Anko's strong heartbeat. That, or there really is such a thing as the Namake's charm. He chuckled to himself. In my day, there was the Sarutobi charm. It's rare that I get to see the Hokage pout. What would everyone say if they could see the mighty Sarutobi Hiruzen in such a sorry state? The Hokage almost huffed. Before or after I had you assassinate them? Naruto shook his head. He was quiet for a moment before he started again. It's not as glamorous as it seems, you know. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow. And how in Kami's name is it not glamorous? Again, Naruto was silent before he replied. When you love two women, it kind of tends to get complicated. This time it was the Sarutobi who was silent before he began. Love? Love. Hiruzen's eyes gazed at Anko for a moment before Naruto nodded. And the other? The Godai Mizukage. Will Haruno Sakura and Yamanaka Ino please enter the arena? Hayate called out, interrupting the two most powerful shinobi in Konoha. Naruto gave Sakura and Ino his full attention. He could feel Ino's mind. The girl was still obsessed with winning Sasuke, and saw Sakura as a rival for that affection. She saw this fight as a way to prove herself more worthy for the young Uchiha. Naruto shook his head and sighed. He then felt Sakura. He saw her speaking with Sasuke a moment before her name was called. Whatever Sasuke had said had totally blown the pink-haired girl away. She felt so much more confident. She felt like if she died today, she would be content. What did Sasuke say? Whatever it was, it had changed Sakura remarkably. Naruto really needed to know what was said between the two. His curiosity got the best of him, and before anyone knew it, he was beside the Uchiha, Anko, and all. What the dash, Anko muttered. She looked at the back of Naruto's head and back at the spot they were at just before and shrugged. She was kind of getting used to all the weird shit her soldier boy could do. Sasuke nodded to Naruto in respect. Sure show, he greeted. What were you and Sakura discussing? He asked suddenly. He didn't care if he was being blunt. He really wanted to know what was said between the two. Sasuke was silent, somewhat embarrassed with the topic. She wanted to know. He looked to the right. Why, I looked at her right before I was about to cut my eyes out. He finished in a whisper. Anko's eyes widened, but she stayed silent. Naruto smiled, already knowing why he did it. He had felt it when it happened. Still, it was good for him to say it. And what did you tell her? Sasuke sighed. I wanted the last thing I saw to be an angel. Now, Sasuke was by no means a romantic, and he didn't mean it in the way Sakura probably took it, but Naruto had to admit, he was going to use that one. I see. Naruto felt Anko's growing desire to open her mouth. That's all then. He finished, before he shined back to the Hokage's side. Anko didn't even react this time. She was more interested in the little genin lovers. Naruto shook his head. They aren't loves, Anko. She didn't react to him almost reading her mind either. She was used to that. Yet, soldier boy. Yet. The smirk on her face would have scared most people, but it only made Naruto return it with one of his own. He hadn't been paying much attention to the match, so when he heard Hayate's voice, he was a little upset with himself. Since both participants are unable to continue, both are disqualified. Ugh, all these girl fights are boring. Even the girl you fought was weak. Kankuro said loud enough for everyone to hear. These kunoichi are so weak. He muttered with a sigh. When the screen showed the next match up, Naruto smirked. Will Hyuga, Hinata and Kankuro please enter the arena? Hayate called out. Hinata narrowed her eyes. The young heiress was not very violent, but even she couldn't stand when someone belittled kunoichi. As Hinata made her way to the stairs that led to the arena floor, she was stopped by Niji. Hinata, he didn't use his usual Hinata-hime. He only ever did that when he was his most serious. This Sunanin claims that our kunoichi are below him. He looked at Kankuro, and then back at Hinata. Show him his folly. Show him why the Hyuga are the greatest clan in Konoha. With that said, Niji moved to the side, letting Hinata pass. The young Hyuga Kunoichi nodded. A determined look was in her lavender-white eyes. When the two were next to Hayate, they took their stances. Naruto couldn't see anything wrong with her form. He guessed working with a genius like Niji helped her more than Naruto thought it would. She was ready to defend her fellow kunoichi. It was time for everyone to see that kunoichi were ninja too. As soon as Hayate signaled for them to begin, Hinata activated her clan's dojutsu. Byakugan. Hinata smirked. The clown's tactic wouldn't really work on someone who could see through walls. With excellent maneuvering, Hinata pivoted, sending a single thrust of her open-palmed juken strike at whatever was wrapped up in bandages on Kankuro's back. The Hyuga genin kept her face the picture of calm as she turned her back on the sexist Tsunanin. As she began to walk towards the stairs, Kankuro fell to his knees. When the Tsunajonin sensei appeared at Kankuro's side and began undoing the bandages on his back, everyone could see what had happened. Apparently, Kankuro was a puppeteer. He had been controlling his puppet from where his puppet should have been. With her dojutsu, Hinata was able to see this immediately, so delivering the single blow to his head was very easy. She had made sure she didn't use enough chakra to kill him, though. At most, he would just have the worst headache he would ever have in his life when he woke up. Winner, Hyuga Hinata. Hayate announced. All of the kunoichi, even the jonin, smirked. Hinata had just fought a battle for every female ninja alive. Kunoichi were not useless. Naruto noticed Niji's proud smile, even though he tried to hide it. Have you noticed him, too? Hiruzen asked. I've known where he's been since he entered Konoha. Hiruzen smirked. As is expected from you. Hi. Hiruzen frowned at the flesh his former student was wearing. For him to walk among us. I thought he was smarter than this. Naruto was so busy with staring Orochimaru down that he didn't notice his hand rub the outside of Anko's thigh. It was his subconscious mind at work, expressing his protective feelings for the woman he loved. Anko, however, noticed it. She stayed silent though. She very much liked the affectionate touch. It matters not how smart he is. Naruto's eyes met Orochimaru's. He didn't care though, he kept his eyes focused on the traitor. He'll be dead soon. His intelligence means nothing now. Once again, Hayate broke their conversation. Will Uchiha Sasuke and Akato Yoroi please enter the arena? This was all for now. Thank you for watching, I hope you liked it and that you will be back for more. Please like, share and subscribe. See ya.